Andy is trying to get us on live. So we are already streaming. It's a little early, but I wanted to do that rather than delay.
Well, it must have worked. I got the notice that we're.
Yeah, I see it. I see it too. But I wanted to do that rather than delay.
All right.
No, that was Mandy getting Mandy. Yeah, she just muted herself. Mandy, you can give me host back if you want, if you haven't already. Bruce, you need to change your name, my friend.
I'm doing that right now.
That's pretty funny.
I only have one arm, Cindy, so.
Oh, no. I can change it probably.
Yeah, no, I got it. I had to
Okay.
have shoulder surgery done.
Oh, bummer, dude.
Yep.
You are all set, Cindy. I have made you host and we are recording.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Admit, oh, we got more coming in here. Jeff, Halpin, John, Paul, Roger, Carol, Mike, Burns, Ed, Heberand. G is Darber again, right? Getting used to this, Mike Darber.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, Stachio. Here comes Julianne. Reminder for those that are just joining us, we are already live. We wanted to just make sure we got it going on time. Jeff, just so you know, Kurt is not going to be here tonight. He's not feeling well, and Jim Hill will not be here tonight. He is feeling well, but has some family that's not.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. And you, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You have a quorum.
Okay. You got anybody else waiting to get in?
Nope. I'll just let them in if they come in, but not right now.
Okay. So we're recording, we're live streaming, so let's call this to order at 6 o'clock for a change. Wow. You got all you're working on your visitors, right, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Washington County make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Jeff. And a second.
Bennington County will second.
Thank you, Carol. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Anything you need to add, Cindy?
No, thank you.
Okay. Matt, anything you want to add? Nope.
He's still
Connected
connecting
audio.
to audio.
Yeah. He's looking like me. He's doing it from his vehicle.
He's got kids. He's probably at a game or something.
Nothing wrong with that. Hearing none, I will take a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda, vote aye.
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 Or something. Thank you.
Aye.
Secretary's report was in your board packet. I'm assuming everybody had a chance to take a look at those. I will entertain a motion to approve the secretary's report.
Essex County motion to accept.
Okay, and a second.
Washington County will second.
Thank you, Jeff. Any corrections to the secretary's report that anybody noticed?
I did not see it in the online package. Was it me or the package?
I don't know. I did not look at the online package.
It was not in the package.
Okay,
And I haven't seen the mail.
It's in the mailer, guys.
I have not gotten the board packet via mail yet.
But
Neither have I.
I believe it was Mandy sent it out like a week or maybe two before the board meeting of just the minutes.
I think you're right.
yes, that is correct. They went out, I want to say about a week or so after the board meeting.
Few
Because we had
days,
some-
actually. It was the same week, but yeah.
It was the same week. You're right. I think it was that Thursday or that Friday, because we had some clubs that were looking for minutes for the following week.
Yep, I remember that. And I did see it and it was okay with it.
Okay. Anything else? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Patty, you're up. Treasurer's report.
Okay, so the report data is through the end of March, which is 6 months of our budget, or 50%. It's pretty easy math there, right? Our income, again, I'm going to round numbers. The budget's 3.3. Monthly activity for the month of March was about 107K, of which 58,000 of it came from the Green Mountain National Forest grants. Income to date is 3.1. We're about 200,000. We need to bring in about 200,000 more to make the expected income, which we will get through those grants through the summer. So feeling good about that. Overall income is at 94% of the budget expectations, and compared to last year this time, last year was 94.52. So we are right on par to where we were last year. Expenses through March, budget 2.7. Monthly activity was 479K, of which 351K was in grooming payments. Expenses to date is 1.3, and we are currently at 48% of our expense budget expectations. Again, compared to last year, we were at 52%, so we're right there as well.
I will entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Windsor County will make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
And a second.
Chittenden County.
Michael.
second.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions for Patty? Or any comments?
Actually, I
Oh.
think my question would be for Matt, but even though it has to do with money.
Okay.
I'll wait till we get to there then. How's that?
Is it something that he's covered in his administrator's report?
He might have, and I didn't see it. I can go look again. It was just regarding final groomer payments, when those were going to be sent. I don't recall.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
Um,
know. I don't see it in here unless somebody else sees it, and I'm not. It's not that big of a report, so.
I believe it'll be sometime in May for the final grooming payments. Looks like Matt's kind of in and out.
Yeah, that's what it said last month. I think it was final was in May, I think it said, Jeff, pretty sure.
I think he holds it for.
In Matt's report dated April 25th, third and final payments will go out in May. I
Yeah.
estimate that we will spend $900,000 on grooming this season.
And who seconded the treasurer's report?
Chittenden County.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. The payments will go out in May. Yeah, I gotta wait till the financial analysis comes in, which is due April 30th, so I don't even start paying them until after the 30th. So it'll be the first week in May, so next week sometime more than likely.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just curious. I'm not,
Oh, good.
It is in his report too, Carmen, so in that packet.
Okay, no, I just saw it. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't remember if it was in there or not either, so it's okay.
It is.
My brain doesn't always catch up with everything else, with my eyes going, so it is in there. I should just learn to read. It's good. Thank you.
I think it's just a weird season, it ended so soon, we're all already planting our gardens and stuff, so.
I wouldn't do that. We got snow coming this week, I heard.
Bummer.
That's a 4-letter word these days. So, any other questions or comments on the treasurer's report? Hearing none, I will entertain the vote. All those in favor of accepting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
No tabled items, no consent calendar, no old business, new business. Cindy, update on our,
So, they're gonna start the conference committees tomorrow. So the budget and the T-bill both passed the House and the Senate. And now they go into what's called conference committee or committees on conference, depending on who you ask. And that's where they get together and discuss details within those bills. And if they want to make any additional changes, if they do, then it has to go for a revote. But it's really just to make sure both bodies are satisfied with all the language. These are, again, must pass bills. And so right now we've got 750,000 for equipment in there and 50,000 for law enforcement. So we'll find out after they vote, and then just depends if the governor passes the budgets, because he also has final power. He can veto budgets, but these are must pass bills. So even if he vetoed it, the legislature would have to go back into session if they're out of it and have to get through it, because they are must pass bills. So I'll get more detailed next month. We should know what it entails and any final stipulations that they're going to have for the funding for VAST. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Cindy, did you say 750? Because I thought it was 1 million for equipment. Did it change?
Oh yeah, it changed. It was totally, I sent out an email. It was totally pulled out.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that.
We didn't have any. And so when they put it back in, they put 750 in.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is, I've been listening a lot to Senate appropriations, and it's unbelievable the amount of requests. They had $80 million worth of requests that they had to deny this year. And so we should all feel very thankful that we're still in it. There were some some of the requests I was listening to, pretty heavy duty stuff. And it's definitely who you know. It's definitely who you know. That's all I'm going to say. Mike Garber's got his hands up, Jeff.
So is the 50,000 tied to the 750? That's question number one. And is the 50 something that we have gotten every year, or is this something that we would get above and beyond what we've gotten every year?
The 50 is not tied to the 750. It's specifically only for law enforcement. It cannot be used for anything else. And no, we have never gotten it before, nor have we gotten the 750,000 for equipment from them, above what we already get for registrations and gas tax and things like that.
So if we get the 50, just the 50 for law enforcement, where would that be saving us money? Where has that money come from in the past?
It's not saving us money. It's allowing us to spend more on law enforcement. So the money would be dedicated. We get a certain amount of money every year that is in statute and state law that's dedicated to law enforcement. That's all we can use it for. So this is to help us with that fund. So it's not like, and the thing is about this money too, this 50 and this 750, it's nothing that we would have to use within a certain amount of time. So it's basically supplementing that program, as well as the equipment. The equipment money would be supplementing that program. Does that help?
Yep.
Okay. But it could be used for not just paying law enforcement. Some of it could be put towards law enforcement equipment as well, because we do help with law enforcement equipment. But so far, I don't believe that in the last Star and Matt and I are on that committee, and I don't believe that we've denied anyone law enforcement equipment in the last 4, 5, 6 years, if ever.
Any other questions for Cindy? Thank you, Cindy. Item 10, Trails Administrator, ED report, LVRT report. Anything change or anything that you guys want to add?
Sure. So, had a meeting, oh, Carmen has her hand up.
Go ahead, Cindy. Oh, wait.
Okay. So I haven't started the budget yet, but I did do year-end projections and met with a few of the finance committee meeting. Patty and I have not had a chance to connect because she has a daughter that's getting married, and so she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off. But it's just fine. I do project we'll definitely be well into the black this year. And you know, while that's good news, it's bad news because we had a crappy season because it was short. And so I will, after we will be presenting you year-end numbers at the May meeting, as well as probably a draft budget for next fiscal year. That's all I have, unless somebody has a question.
And that's what you did we did last year too, Cindy. I think it's pretty much same time frame. Yep. I look back at my notes. Yeah.
Same as every year. Yep.
My daughter's getting married this Saturday.
Carmen.
Cindy, I had a quick question for you. Under the International Snowmobile Congress, you said that you're going to have a booth there for the RRG. And I'm just wondering, is that something you're planning on doing at all the trade shows?
No, I don't think so. We haven't talked about that. This was more of a just getting out there because it's snowmobile centric for organizations at Congress. It was more like hitting the population that we wanted to hit. But that's not to say that might not change. But we haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay.
Oh, Jeff, I did want to mention one more thing too. So we've also started a project at the office where we are designing a program that, well, basically what we're doing is we are checking all the state and federal websites to make sure that clubs are compliant. We're not doing this in a way to harass anybody on their knuckles. What we're trying to do is set up a system within our database that allows us to see when clubs are supposed to be filing and warning them when their filing dates are coming up, as well as making sure that they know if they haven't filed in a while that they need to file. It's sort of a safety net for our annual audit process. And so we're going to be sending out, just so you guys know in advance, in a few weeks, I'll be sending out a letter to all the clubs just saying, like, this is what we're doing and this is what it's going to look like. You may get a letter that says this, you know, that you haven't filed in 25 years or you've never filed. Are you great? You file every year, just so you know the next time you need to file is on this date. Or just so you know, the federal website is not showing your mailing address, you know, or your address, because there were like 30 clubs that on the federal site we couldn't pull up when we searched for them in Vermont. But when you took Vermont out, then all of a sudden they popped up. So just little things like that. And then we'll be notifying clubs if at least annually, if not every 6 months, or if their renewal dates are different dates, they'll automatically generate a letter like every month. You know, it won't get a letter every month. I don't mean that, but I just mean like every club that's due in May will get a letter in April or March or something like that every year. as a way just to assist clubs, because there is so much turnover with officers in clubs and people have different levels of knowledge, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. So this is a project that Mandy's working on, and we're going to be working with Beth once we get to the point where we're ready to use the database.
Sounds good.
Carmen and Stan both have their hands up.
Yep.
Actually,
Go
my
ahead.
question was for Mandy. Did you have a chance to go in and double check my stuff? I don't know if she's on.
She's on.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, Carmen, I did, and I did update that for you. in our-
Okay, cool. Okay, I just wanted to just double check because this has been a priority for me, and Cindy knows that. So that's why I've been trying to get information out to all the right people. So I hadn't heard anything, so I wasn't sure. I just thought I'd ask and she brought it up. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Carmen.
Go ahead, Stan.
So my question just goes back to that, the trade show booth. Just so I understand it right. I mean, you're putting this out there and presenting it to other snowmobile associations as a potential insurance carrier, but you wouldn't be doing it at a SAM show or the New Hampshire show, because that's snowmobilers and you're not going to be selling insurance to snowmobilers, right?
Right. We're not at that point yet. And honestly, we really hadn't discussed it. So I don't want to just, say that the board of the RRG has decided not to do it. We just haven't gotten to that point. And I'm sure that there could be, there are a lot of associations and stuff that go to those different events, especially some of the bigger events, maybe not the SAM show, but the like the New York show, there's quite a few associations, but I don't know that it's worth it because there's not quite a few. What do you think, Jeff and Mark? There's probably 6 or 10 at the most, but
yeah, you wouldn't have a very large audience of people there that would be potential customers, so to speak. And there isn't any, I guess the other part of the question is there any thought that this could also be an insurance company for snowmobilers for their
No.
sled liability?
No, they're specifically
okay.
not allowed by law.
That's good. Oh, thank you.
No, the reason Congress is because there's been interest expressed by other states. And specifically, they wondered if someone could talk about it, be out there and talk about it a little bit. I could have, personally, I could have 5 states there with checks wanting to bang, and I don't think I would accept anyone because we're not ready. We want to learn what we're doing first. So, but it is there to provide information. We'll be there to provide information to other states. As Cindy said, that's where you've said that's more pointed towards the associations.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. And that's a great audience. I would think you'd have opportunity to bring visibility to the fact that that's what we're doing, and that in the future there may be an opportunity. And if we do grow that, it could ultimately save significant amount of money and even become a moneymaker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great.
I try to distance myself from that portion, ever promising to save money.
Well, insurance companies make a lot of money. They're rich.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree.
All right. Anything else for the ED reports, Trails Administrators report? Okay. Northeast chapter and USA. Pat, anything? I've been kind of out of the loop.
USA did meet last week, 2 weeks ago, excuse me. In that meeting were New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Colorado, California, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Idaho. That's most of the states that are in the association. And they're going to hold their meeting at ISC also, their annual meeting, although I believe it's going to be in a different building adjacent to the main hotel. And the chapter,
we have.
news that I've seen recently is that the executive director for New York has retired.
Yes, as of yesterday.
Yeah.
And his replacement is their previous general manager, Jennifer Senf. She's been working fairly close side by side with the executive director the last 3 or 4 years. And the transition was fairly seamless at their annual meeting yesterday, which I had the opportunity to attend. And Mark partook in a few of the seminars over the weekend as well. So, but Northeast chapter will be having their meeting in Iowa as well. They have also decided to sponsor the welcoming ceremony to ISC in June as well, to try to reunite the now close the division a little bit between some of the groups. So
Can we, for those of us who are relatively new, or there are some of us, can you just give a quick refresher on what Northeast chapter is and what USA is? And I mean, not in-depth history, this guy didn't get along with this guy, but just the basics.
Yep, because we don't talk about that stuff anymore. Northeast chapter is made up of the associations from, let's see, New York eastward, north of the border as well. From, let's see, we pick up Quebec to Nova Scotia and all points east and north. And we are a advocacy group, I guess, would be the best description of it. Plus we communicate between ourselves. So we're not reinventing the wheel, so to speak, if there's issues. And USA is more of a national association, not including north of the border. We are strictly US only, and made up of state associations that have not necessarily, well, I don't believe they've all left AXA, but have kind of found that AXA is not necessarily doing what they need or want done. So USA was formed 2 or 3 years ago in Nova Scotia, as a matter of fact, and it kind of carried on with a small but dedicated group of people and associations to more directly deal with kind of the East Coast trail riding issues that are ongoing, whereas AXA is Midwest based, so they tend to deal more with Midwest and West issues, which are more off-trail and Bureau land management property issues, more federal lands than what we have on the East Coast. So
the upshot is that AXA, the Association of State Snowmobile Councils or something, what's I forget the exact name. Several states were unhappy with the governance of AXA and left to form USA, which is what, United Snowmobile Associations?
Alliance.
Yep. And the Northeast chapter refers to basically the chapter of AXA that left.
Chapter of International Snowmobile Congress, which
okay, right.
That's
That's why I wanted the sort of the roadmap, because sometimes we say these things and forget that we have new people coming and going.
Yep.
And they're national organizations or regional organizations that we belong to that advocate for snowmobiling and developing answers to shared concerns and problems across all of our territories.
Yep.
So now, from now on, we'll just go back to saying Northeast Chapter in USA, and everybody will have an idea what they are.
Well, and the other thing too is for those that don't know, so Congress is not the Congress that's in Washington, DC. Congress is the International Snowmobile Congress, and it's an event that happens every June. This year, as Jeff mentioned, it's in Iowa. And this is where these different groups get together and have meetings, and then all of us also have meetings together. So Matt and I are both part of IASA, which is the International Association of Snowmobile Administrators. And I'm an officer and Matt is our voting member. And that's where we have full day meetings at the International Snowmobile Congress, meeting with these folks. And this is international. So it can be people from, Russia, well, not now, but Finland or, anywhere else that come together that basically do our jobs, whether they're government employees or associations.
And because the other group, AXA, is going to be there, it's expected there will be a few fights. So I've been asked to train in boxing just in case I run into an AXA guy, on the street corner when we're out there, but I'm fine with that.
Just wear Snowmobile Vermont gear and they'll ignore you.
This is true.
And I'm just joking about that because I can't fight. I'm not very good.
And it's not combative. It's just there's just some stuff that happened a few years ago when the Eastern states pulled out, and they just don't. It's not Vermont. It's just all of us, but on the East Coast that they don't like.
Oh.
Anyway,
And the Northeast chapter is trying to start afresh and mend the fence, so to speak. So, so is that pretty accurate, Pat?
Yep. Sounds
Perfect.
good.
Snow Trail Conservancy, anything you know of, Cindy? You're on mute.
we have an easement called Tunnel Brook that was done a few years ago, and we think that there might have been a mistake on one of the deeds, or the easement. So we're just starting to work on that. It's no big deal. It's just for some reason an easement that we ended up getting 2 parcels, and one's not needed. Our trail's not even on that side of the road. And so minor stuff right now.
Okay, thank you.
In case we gotta move it.
Law enforcement, anything?
Nope, I emailed and I have been getting in year-end reports. So I'm just gonna be going through those and seeing who I'm missing. But that's pretty much it for law enforcement.
Okay. LVRT, Ken, anything? I'm sure construction is going full tilt and crazy.
Yeah, and we're not involved in the construction at this stage, so which is nice. I did just sign a $140,000 bid with Munson to replace the decks on the bridges in the Cambridge area that we put plywood on last year. So that repair is on the books. I think it'll be a while before they do it. It'll take them a while to get the lumber.
And does that also include the bridges in Mooresville? I know that there was some of those that were a bit questionable.
Yeah, all the ones that we put plywood on last year. So yeah,
Gotcha.
Morrisville and Johnson.
Okay.
So we got somebody periodically checking that plywood so we don't have issues.
Well, people have our number for making complaints. I haven't gotten any, surprisingly. So,
Okay. Of course,
I
at the
think
price
it's
of
doing
plywood,
okay.
at the price of plywood these days, there's probably none left on there anyways.
It's pretty rough after the winter.
Okay.
And just because questions are going to come up, we're using every portion of LVRT money we have left to redeck these bridges. And then, so this isn't a new appropriation or anything, because
Right.
I know others are probably watching on YouTube, and so you guys are going to get questions at your next county meeting. So I just want to let you know.
Yeah, most of that money is from two big donations that we had in the past that were, related to other projects, and they've agreed to shift it over.
I think Mike Burns might have a question or is trying to say something.
Oh, just a quick comment. I didn't know if you'd looked at Bridge 68 lately, but the way they did that wood, it is deteriorating a little bit with the snowmobiles and stuff.
Well, shh.
No, but just get ahead of it before it deteriorates.
Yeah, there's 2 layers of wood on that particular bridge. I guess it will depend on whether it remains cosmetic or if it becomes actually a.
Yeah, it's just cosmetic, but I mean, at least right now it is, but it's just a thought. I biked it the other day and you could, I mean, it put it in there really tight. So it's doing some strings with the swelling, but you can also see the sled marks too.
And, you know, and just so, I mean, everybody's aware, we're still going to have to groom and take care of this trail. And we're probably also going to have to continuously help with fixing any sort of, you know, any damage that, you know, that's, you know, that's if there is bridge damage as far as decking goes down the road, that they can say that we, you know, that we did. So we're working right now with the lease and all that, but you know, just so you don't say, well, we were blindsided. We thought we were done with this thing. All we had to do was groom. No, it's just like any other bridge on our trail system. You know, it's they need care.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have to pay for the whole deal though, right?
Right. No, I don't think we would have to do that.
Should be something cost share with the state.
We're certainly not paying for any structure stuff like we
Right.
do for other bridges.
Right.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, I'm just gonna say they're doing the newer bridges with pressure treated lumber. So we might see a scenario where the middle gets chewed up by snowmobile studs and needs to be replaced, but the edges are fine. And that would be, you know, pretty clearly specifically from snowmobiles. They're going to put a rubber mat down inside the Fisher Bridge, that's the covered bridge, for the winter because they don't want snow dragged in there. So if that actually works out, it might be something to consider on other bridges. I have no idea how much it's going to cost.
What happens when your skis hit rubber?
Roger,
I mean,
any,
I've never snowmobiled over something that it's rubber, but I would imagine it. I don't know. You go over. I don't know. I don't want to say anything. Sorry. Never mind.
Roger, did they use rubber on the bridge in Newport City?
Yes, they did, and it was fine because it held snow, but in the portions that were bare, it was froze hard enough to where the carbide just went right over it.
Okay. Thank you.
Would there be any value to put runners on some of these bridges? Put them on, you know, just before the season opens and then remove them in the spring to save the bridge decking?
It's complex math that I'm not sure how to do because it depends how much time you're saving, I guess, by doing that, whether it would add up to being worth it or not. On the bridges, the existing bridges on the LVRT, the ones that we're replacing the decks for now, it's not because of snowmobile damage, it's because they rotted. It was untreated wood. And most of them really look fine. There's not a lot of damage from the snowmobiles. It's different from bridge to bridge, whether it holds snow or not, or how much traffic it gets, and if the club's able to push snow onto there. So I think it's kind of case by case.
Jeff Alpin has his hand up, Jeff.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was wondering, and I don't know, what is VASA going to be getting use of the LVRT? Does anybody know that, or different sections of it or anything?
No, they're not allowed on it.
Okay.
Yeah, right now they're not allowed on it.
Okay. Awards and nominating. Patty.
Okay, just a reminder, it's about a week away. May 1st is the deadline for award nominations. It's been in the last 2 publications of the magazine. the ad reminding folks, and I posted it to a few Facebook group pages. And I know Vast also shared it on their Facebook page too. So just remind folks about that. The committee will meet mid to late May and go through everything. And then I place the order beginning of June. Just want to remind folks too, within your counties, the Trailblazer Awards, anybody nominated with 25 years or more of service always receives that certificate. So if you have people that that are deserving of that volunteer award, please take the time for them to be recognized at the annual meeting. It's a nice thank you, and there's no selection process. All Trailblazers are receiving a certificate. Okay. The VAST officer nominations, that's the nominating committee portion of this committee. The current slate of officers received an email today. Some of them responded already. They'll let me know by mid-May if they're seeking re-election, and if not, then we solicit. Otherwise, their write-ups will go in the July magazine. So there we are.
Thank you. Any questions for Patty? All righty. Let's see, bylaws and policy. Mark.
Cindy and I are going to be sitting down after she sort of gets the first draft of the budget done to go through any changes that we need. So I expect that sometime in May, right, Cindy?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Annual meeting, John Hall.
Yeah, things are coming along pretty good. We're working with Cindy with some new signage. Hopefully we'll be coming up with a design for all that, right, Cindy, soon?
John, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, that was rude. Go ahead. I'll talk to you. I'll say something after.
No, it's fine. We're looking for a public address system with 4 microphones. I guess we need 2 of them, 1 for the head table and 2 for the audience. So if anybody knows of anybody that has that kind of a system, we'd be open for a donation for that. Otherwise, we're gonna have to figure out a place to rent that from. And I'm not sure where you got them before, Cindy, the last couple of years when we did it in Waterbury, but we'll figure that out. Vendors have all been invited. Most have responded. A lot of the dealers do not want to show up due to lack of inventory. But we're making progress with getting vendors committed. Working with a sled farm on the meal for the lunch and for breakfast, and I think things are going along pretty good.
John, as far as the signs go, I've already found a couple of annual meeting banners that already exist. So they're outdoor banners. So we can point them, we can put them at the end of Henshaw Road facing both directions. And then as far as the other signs go, I'm just doing vast parking with arrows.
Okay.
So if the county wants something else, would you ask them to email me what they'd like the signs to say? Because I don't need it right away, but I'll need at least a month's notice on what to order. But I was just gonna.
Sounds good. We'll get the sign committee on that.
Okay, and then about a sound system, we actually own like one single big speaker and like 4 or 5 microphones. So we could get away with that. The last couple of years, we did hire a company. They're out of Richmond. Jeff, do you remember what the cost on that was?
$2,200 maybe.
$2,200 for the day. Now, granted, they would be traveling. Roger, you know anybody in the Newport area that does that, like sound system people?
Yeah, I mean, there's some DJs up here that would be reasonable. Drift Dusters also owns a PA system with 2 separate microphones as well, too. So there's possible you could use our setup for the audience, and then you could use Vast setup for the front table, so the head table. But John, you can just touch base with me. I've got some local guys that may be able to help you out. I don't know if they donate, but we can certainly look into that.
Okay, thanks, Roger.
Yeah, and
Yep.
we could definitely do what Roger suggested, bring up our system too with our 4 or 5 microphones. And then if he had his, yeah, we could figure it out.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thanks, John. No executive committee, financial, Patty, we're all set on that, right? Long range planning, Mark. Anything new and
So
exciting?
RRG's licensing, I'm not going to say it hit a snag, but as part of their initial review, the state had more questions. So we had to rewrite a few of the, I don't want to say the bylaws exactly, but we had to answer the questions and change some of the governance documents slightly. And now it looks like all things are go, and we should be getting word on that in the next week or two, I believe. And that's about it.
Okay. Resource committee, Ivor, you guys are still plugging away on some of your stuff, right?
There we go. I think I got it unmuted. Yeah, after the last Trails Committee, the only thing recent that we've done is the Trails Committee asked for some additional data and graphs that Patty helped us get together for the presentation. But other than that, that's all that we've got. I haven't been asked any questions or anything from any directors or anybody. So if anybody's got any questions or wants additional data, just email me and I'll get you whatever we've got.
Is Perry still looking at the lease stuff, or are you guys still looking at that a little bit?
Not within the past month.
Okay.
I don't believe we're just sort of sitting in limbo right now.
Okay. Because that was something that we had tossed around a little bit in the working group the other day too.
Yep.
The leasing may be an option to look at as we
yeah, for
move
sure.
forward.
And there's a whole bunch of other pieces in it that weren't part of our presentation, like trail scoring system. And I mean, you could get really in depth with it, but as far as something to get some simple changes started was what we had in our presentation. But there is a ton of other stuff that can get dug into. It just takes time.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Carmen.
Sorry. I'm just curious, is the resource committee working with the trails subcommittee, I guess is what we're calling this, or work group?
The working group is looking at the information that the resource committee gave to the trails committee. We've had one meeting. We're going to have another meeting next week. I don't remember if it's Monday or Tuesday, but it's early next week. And
May 2nd.
Okay, so that would be
Monday.
Monday. Monday. Yeah.
According to the Trails Administrator report that Matt put out.
Okay. Yep. I couldn't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, but it is Monday.
Okay.
So we've batted around some ideas, but
are the two working together, or are you kind of like separate entities? I guess I'm not really quite sure how to word it.
They're not separate entities. We have taken the initial download of their information, and there's enough information that it's not all going to happen at once. So we're looking at some different pieces of it. We're looking at grooming contracts and ways that we can get money to where it needs to go a little more effectively than what we have now, based on the input from the clubs and the counties, that they were looking for a little more control over their money. So we've looked at some ideas for that. We've talked about eliminating the subsidy program and making that an actual startup program So that money
Yeah,
is,
I saw that in the report, and I have questions when we get to I guess the trails portion. I just feel like these kind of two are now being kind of intertwined, so I'll say my trails stuff questions for when we get to the trails portion of it, because I know we still have to, Julianne has to do her personal kind of report, because I know these kind of coincide together. So I just have some bunch of questions.
okay. Yeah, so there's a couple of groups of different people. There's plenty of information. We're just trying to see what we can do, you know.
Roger has his hand up.
In the short term. Yep, go ahead, Roger.
I just want to make sure that we are gaining some of the information that the resource committee spent so much time on over the last year. You know, to me, from the outside looking in, it looks like the resource committee is being railroaded by this working group, and I understand that may not be the case, but after talking to a few folks in that group, like, this working group was a surprise to them, and I just want to make sure that the information is getting to the board, whether it comes through the Trails Committee or it comes directly from the Resource Committee. Regardless of the suggestions that are made, the Trails Committee established and obtained, the Resource Committee established and obtained a bunch of data, grassroots data from their meetings with the snowmobile clubs, and I want to make sure that that's getting to the board. So unbiased, unfiltered, the data needs to come to the board.
Okay.
So let's just make sure that that happens, please.
Absolutely. I will send the resource committee report out to the board as soon as we get off this meeting. That way everybody has it and they can do what they want with it.
You don't have the current one.
Okay, Patty.
And the reason I'm saying that is after the Trails Committee, like Ivor said, a bunch of stuff was added based on their recommendations after
Okay.
that meeting.
Can you send that out then, Patty? Sometime this evening or tomorrow morning, if you have a chance?
I can do that.
Thank you.
We're fine. The resource committee is fine given the presentation, if that's what the board wants.
I was emailed a copy of the resource committee report / information. I don't know how accurate it is. It's thick. There's a lot of information. I would like a report accompanied, you know, by somebody from the resource committee, you know, especially with all the work you guys did, obtaining that information. And, you know, if this working group needs to continue to work on it, whatever, that's fine. I'm not against that, but I just, you know, we have 18 months worth of questions that we need to ask or find out from the resource committee that obtained all this information. So it would be wonderful if we could get that in one way, shape, or form.
Okay. Ivor.
Yep.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but how quick?
You can.
Is that something that you could do right now if everybody's interested?
I could, but Perry and Ellis are also a big part of this.
Okay.
We'd be on the agenda for the next board meeting, and
Let's put you on the agenda for the next board meeting then.
We'll give you the exact presentation that we did to the Trails Committee, plus the added data and graphs that the Trails Committee asked for.
Yep, and I'll still ask that Patty send out that information as soon as she can, so they have that to look at prior to next board meeting.
And these aren't recommended policies to be voted on right away. It's suggestions, and it's all starting points for conversations.
Yep.
And Ivor, I think we're all aware of that. I just think that, I mean, I'm going to be honest, Roger and I have talked because I had heard different things. Brian and I, and Courier and I have had conversations. I've had conversations with other people, and there's a lot of different information that's kind of being thrown out there, and it's not really unified. And I think part of that's because the board hasn't seen that information. So
And that
or it's
was,
being miscommunicated. And so I think I know for me, it was hard to try to address some things, and then things got back to Brian, and he was a little bit upset and tried to clarify them. And so I think there's a little bit of breakdown, and I think all that we're asking is, we'd like to be kept in kind of a loop so we can maybe stop and prevent some of the miscommunication that's taking place, because as we all know, bad news travels faster than good news, so to speak. So
and
Mike Burns has his hand up.
And that was part of my reason for having the working group, is to decipher some of that information before it got to the board, to take care of some of the questions and some of the issues. But obviously that was a mistake on my part, and I apologize. Mike Burns, go ahead.
Yes, really, I guess a question for Ivor and stuff. How do you want us to ask you questions and stuff? Do you want just an email with them, or to you, or how do we want us to do that?
Yeah, you can email me. And anything I get from anybody, I CC it to Patty Allison Perry. It might take us a day or two to get back to you.
That's fine.
One of the three of us will, or four of us will.
Okay, I just wanted to, make sure I was doing it right, and I do have some questions. I tend to get into things that get questions, so I will forward you up with them, and some of them may be redundant, unfortunately, with some of the other guys, but I will ask.
No, nothing's wrong. We'll figure it out.
All right, thank you.
It's the dialogue that's going to get us there.
Roger?
I just want to be clear. I stayed very quiet on this topic until I started hearing social media rumors of $20 increases, $40 increases. And at that point, I knew the information was getting out, the suggestions were getting out. And I just want to make sure that I don't look misinformed, uninformed when my constituents come to me and ask me what's going on with these changes in VAST. And I don't have a problem with the resource committee going to the Trails Committee and presenting their information, and the Trails Committee filtering through and cleaning up stuff and working with the resource committee. It's just all of a sudden now this subcommittee, the working group, is now bumped in there. So we have more people involved, and nothing has really made it to the board yet. And I put a lot of faith and a lot of trust in my Trails coordinator, the Trails Committee as a whole, to try to be that first level of basically filter for the information coming to the board, and trying to clean all that stuff up before the actual final recommendations / information come to the board. But, again, after hearing that just third party, that there's these increases coming through and it was all on social media, it's a little irritating. So I just want to make sure that the board is informed and that we're getting the information that we need to be. I do not by any means want to bypass the Trails Committee, or anything like that. I just want to make sure that we're informed, because word travels fast, as you know, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And I mean, you established the working group for a reason, and it's not that I'm against it. It's just I'm trying to figure out where, again, like Carmen says, kind of where they fit in here, as far as like how much are we going to committee this to death before it goes to the board. And that's all. And again, I'm fine with the committee, resource committee, or the Trails Committee, or the working group holding off on the recommendations for now, but the actual data, and I'm hearing, I don't remember the statistic. It was like 6% of the trails are maintained by the largest clubs in the state, or whatever. Like, that kind of stuff is nice. I like to get that in my head, and I like to start brainstorming that, so that when this information comes, I can start chewing on it. I've got a 2-hour commute to and from work, so I got a lot of time to think, brainstorm. So it's nice to have the information so that I can do that. So I appreciate it.
Yep. It's actually 6 largest clubs maintain 10% of the trail mileage. That was the number. And 48% of our clubs have 100 members or less. And some of those clubs have as much mileage as some of the larger clubs do, with quite a few less members. So, but anyways, that information will be getting out to the board here shortly.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. Personnel, Julianne.
We did meet, Jeff and Mark and Cindy and I, and with Sheila about creating a, I guess we would call it a policy, and we're referring to it as vast emergency leave, to help vast staff when something happens as far as, you know, a pregnancy, an adoption, illness, someone they need help, or they have to be out of the office for any extended amount of time, or to support a family member going through an illness or anything like that. So we did write the document. It's just going through some, the vetting process right now. And that's all I've got.
Okay. And let's see, what's next? Personnel, trails. Brian, welcome.
I think we've already talked about that.
Well, I see Carmen has her hand up and Roger has his hand up. I don't know if he has his hand up again or still. Okay.
But just for the record, Brian, I'm sitting at the opposite end of the table at the next meeting with you.
That's okay.
I have a question. I kind of was reading through the trails report. If you guys are looking at doing the subsidy payment as a startup payment, how is that going to work with the groomer payments going out? I guess is my question. Or have you gotten that far?
I think it's way too early to put out any more information that may be misconceived.
Or controversial.
Yeah.
I feel like if it's in a report, the information it's kind of out there, and it kind of opens the door for questions. So
Carmen, you're asking detailed questions about something that's just in the thinking process.
Well, that's why I was asking if they've gotten like that far in the thought process, or if this is just like A, but they haven't gotten to like the B part of it. Or
the thought process was, Carmen, that we tend to pay subsidies anyways. So why not cut out a payment, either the startup payment or the subsidy payment, just make one payment. Right now we're looking at whether or not we maintain the current percentages of those subsidy payments, the 30, the 35 and 40 based on the weeks in the contract. Or whether we do a flat 35, we do a flat 40 for everybody. And that would be the startup payment. There would be a second payment based on miles groomed, somewhere's middle of February, maybe middle to the end of February, and then a final payment after the financial analysis is done. That cuts down a little bit on the paperwork in the office, getting payments out. It would also be tied to clubs having a pot of mileage that they could work out of, that they would be given their allotment of mileage for the year, based on current contracts and taking into account like the last X number of years of actually groomed mileage. So those in the higher snow level, higher snow areas may get a bump in the number of miles they can groom. Those that are in the banana belt, so to speak, that don't, they only reach maybe 50% of their cap or 60% of their cap may see that cap reduced if the historical mileage, proves that out. So this is all kind of the process that we're looking at. There's.
I know it's a lot, Jeff, and I
Yep.
mean, I get it, and I understand, Pat, like where you're coming from, but Brian can also tell you that he sat through a meeting and there was just a bombardment of questions, and I sat through 2 meetings like that, and it was hard to answer questions and not know, and information, like I said, gets out there. So if somebody sees this Trails Administrator report, there's going to be a lot of questions, which, by the way, Brian, I've just decided, and I'm going to tell him to call you. So just so you're aware of that right off the bat.
Welcome back, Brian.
Yay.
And Carmen, and they can call me as well. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. And, so yes, this is some of the stuff that we're throwing around in the working group. And as many of you know, when you have a committee of, 14 people, you have, that many more voices to be heard. And sometimes it gets off track and goes, out in the giggywigs where it really isn't overly productive. So that was one of my reasons for taking a smaller section of people and trying to work through the initial dump of information. So I'm learning now that may not have been the best way to go through it. So,
Jeff, I don't think it's a bad way. I just think that I agree that you need, reports need to be given. But, for those of you that weren't at the Trails Committee meeting, or the Resource Committee presentation at the Trails Committee meeting, it was going fairly fast and there was a lot of stuff thrown out there, and all of a sudden there were motions being made for recommendations, and we were like, whoa, time out. This needs to be a lot more thoughtful process. Like, you guys have done a great job getting it to here. And that was the whole idea of what Jeff and Matt and others and Mark and others agreed upon, was like, we need to distill some of this information. And I agree that it's frustrating because that report, what did go out there, right? And you guys weren't informed. So I see that side of it, but I'm a big believer in not getting everything ready, set, go, just to hand to this board, right? But also, some of these things, you have to remember, you guys, and a lot of you are new, these subjects are things that this board of directors spent years trying to tackle at weekend retreats every June for at least 3 or 4 years in a row. And we never were able to. We came in with maps and graphs and statistics, but it's such a personal conversation. And this board, the past president of this board, really handed this resource committee a very, very tough job. And so I hear what you're all saying about being informed, and that's incredibly important. But it's even like, Jeff, what you just got into the weeds about, I wouldn't have even gone that far at this point, because now you're developing more questions about that, what you're coming up with. And I just caution you to let yourselves do the work you need to do with your working group and your Trails Committee. Anyway, I didn't want you to feel bad, because it sounded like you're starting to feel bad and second guessing. It's just a really big topic.
First of all, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. This is a huge undertaking, and I get that. But I can also say I have been bombarded at a county meeting, and then at club meetings, and then had other clubs call me with information, and it's hard to answer questions when we didn't have the information. And Brian can verify this. There was some misinformation that went out, and I wasn't fully informed. I was trusting this person that was giving that information to be correct, and it wasn't completely correct, and I couldn't stop it during the meeting because I was not aware of what was going on. And that's kind of where I'm kind of getting from. It's hard. And then I kind of felt bad because Brian kind of got caught in the mix, and he was a little upset that there was misinformation. And so now I feel like we're backtracking to try to correct it and say, everybody stop. Like, this is kind of where it stands. But it's hard, when we don't have that. I get that it's a huge undertaking. I'm not saying I disagree. I get that this board tried this for years. I remember sitting in those meetings trying to hash this out, and it didn't, we didn't get anywhere with it. And I get that. And I know it's not going to all happen this year. It's baby steps to get to that point. It's just asking for the information to set people straight, so it's not the incorrect information that's going out, like on social media. Because as Roger said, I had people coming and just upset saying, a $40 increase? Are you kidding me? Like, and it was like, whoa, where did you get $40? Like, it's hard. And I think we're just looking for something. Let me rephrase that. I am looking for something to tell people without poor Brian's phone having to be ringing off the wall. Obviously, if it gets to a point to that, then I do say, you're going to have to call Brian, because I don't know what to tell you.
Best response is it's still a work in progress and there's nothing definite to present to the board yet, which is the truth. It's our hope is to have something to bring to the Trails Committee and bring to the board in the next 2 months, so we can make some changes for this coming season. But we'll have to, it is a ton of information, and we want to make sure we try to get it headed in the right direction for a first shot. Will we get it right the first time? I doubt it. I don't think we will. But there's
But it's a living document. It's going to be changing because it's going to depend on what Mother Nature it gives us. And I don't want you to feel bad, Jeff. I understand. I understand the process of it. I do. And I sympathize with you guys.
I don't feel bad, but I'll be the first one to admit that when I make a mistake, I usually admit that I made the mistake. And right now I am second guessing myself, but I don't feel bad because I thought I was going in the right direction. So we'll kind of continue down the path we're headed, and we'll see where we go. Roger, go ahead.
Cindy, does this mean we're not going to get our director spa days anymore because we weren't very?
No, I think it's really important that we start those again. And it wasn't much of a spa day. You guys are sitting in chairs looking at graphs and crap for 10 hours a day. Maybe you had a few beers that evening, but no, I think it would be important. I think it's really important, especially with so many board members, to start to get together. I know everybody has busy lives and stuff like that, but those times that you guys get to spend together for a couple of days once a year really help to solidify this board of directors. And there's so much idea sharing that happens. We joke about it as being a retreat, but it's a lot of work, as well. And so no, I would, now that we're kind of, hopefully getting past the COVID bump, everybody's vaccinated and boosted, and I'd love to see that again if you guys want to start doing that again.
Can we officially call it the board a spa day, though? I kind of like that.
Well, that's when your phone's going to be ringing off the hook, Carmen, more than it is now if you call it that.
But Jeff, I was just going to mention, and getting back to your point of corralling 14 people and keeping them on topic. You've got a trails chair. That's his job. It's a tough job. And I get it. It's hard, but I definitely rely on a lot of the guys on the Trails Committee who I know well, ask the question that Carmen's asking, so that when the topic gets to the board, you guys can easily say, the Trails Committee already asked that, and here's our answer. And it shortens the board meetings and stuff, because we all think alike. It's just different layers of thinking. So I don't necessarily think you were off. You were wrong. It's just, I think the information got to us maybe a little quicker, unrefined than it probably should have. But that's neither here nor there. I look forward to hearing from the resource committee here at some point.
And you've seen those trails committees meetings take 3.5 hours to get accomplished, one small task too, so. But, yeah, we'll keep working on that, and, you should see that information, at least in the presentation, in your email soon, and, we'll slot the, resource committee in for next month to do their presentation. Let's see, safety, Stan.
Wait, are you gonna let the chair of the Trails Committee say anything?
I thought we were done. I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
Well, I don't think there was ever any intent to cut out the Trails Committee on this working group. I think the intent was to try to refine, the report from the Resource Committee into something that would be something that the Trails Committee could work with and discuss easily. As far as some of the misinformation, talking about, TMA price increases, the Resource Committee had simply shown us how much a TMA increase how much money it could put in in the vast checkbook, and they had shown up a graph with, different price increases, increasing, the money available to the grooming and equipment grants programs. There was no suggestion of any TMA increase, discussed at this point. That would probably happen, at a Trails Committee meeting, and then that would be, forwarded to the board for, for their input.
It was all hypothetical that if you raise the TMA $20, you could put, $400,000 into grooming, or 200,000 into grooming and 200,000 into equipment grants. It was all hypothetical. But I guess when you get bad information out there, Carmen's correct, it tends to spread like wildfire.
Well, it's like playing telephone, but now you're doing it on Facebook.
Yes. Yep.
I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, but when I'm hearing from certain people on the resource committee that they had no idea that this working group was started, and they don't know why, and they were kind of cut out of the loop. If the Trails Committee needs their information refined, I don't know why it didn't just go back to the resource committee, or as the new president, you just maybe reassign new people to the resource committee. Or it's just kind of weird how it all happened, and it raised some questions from us lay people.
Well, I'll tell you that I was at that meeting, and it certainly was brought up that a working group was being put together. They were not in the dark. That's actually where the idea came from, was at that meeting. So maybe they were focused on something else and weren't hearing it, but it was quite a long discussion. Just saying, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but they did talk about it.
And that's fine. That's not what I had heard, but again, why wouldn't you just recharge the resource committee unless the resource committee sits there and says, we're done. We have, talked about this over and over again. This is all we've got for you. Then you move on maybe to some new folks, but I don't know why it wouldn't just go back to the people that did all the interviews of every single county and stuff like that. But I don't want to just continue with this. It is what it is at this point, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
My theory on the not adding or not using the resource committee to decipher the information was that, as you know, a lot of times when you put a set of fresh eyes on a project, you get some different perspective. And that was my train of thought. So right or wrong, that's what I did, and that's what we've got, and that's what we're going to kind of work with what we've got. So, Brian, anything else before I cut you off again?
No, I mean, right now, I mean, the working group is intending to meet again on May 2nd. And other than that, you know, the Trails Committee has a special meeting in May 16th when they're going to, discuss new trail projects.
And that information needs to be to Brian and Matt by the 9th of May, week before the actual meeting.
I don't have it right in front of me, but that sounds right. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, that date I did know. It was date of the working group meeting that I couldn't remember. So. Okay.
Jeff, yeah, I do like the idea of the working committee. We just, when we were asked what was entailed in it, we just didn't know what was entailed in it. But yeah, I mean, the more help on it, the better. It is a lot to go through and weed through. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ivar.
Yep.
Safety, Stan.
Yeah, we did meet this month, just kind of reviewed some of the numbers from the year, discuss the implementation and distribution of the new signs, and kind of a little bit of a marketing approach to it. And then also, I got into that Trails Committee meeting the last week or whatever, that was actually your working group. So when is the actual next regular Trails Committee meeting?
What did we just say?
There's a May 16th.
May 16th.
May 16th, yes.
But isn't that the one that's just to discuss contract changes and
that,
or is that a meeting?
That will be part of the agenda, yes. But
all right,
I'm sure we'll delve into some other stuff as well.
Well, because the committee does have a request to deal with some of the off-trail riding issues that we've been having, and there was a suggestion that was made that we wanted to bring to the Trails Committee because it's mostly, I would say, it's most appropriate coming out of trails. So we do want to come to the Trails Committee. So if we could get 5 minutes on the agenda for that, and just keep me, it kind of loop me into the meeting agenda or meeting time.
Okay.
I'll quit and I'll present it to the Trails Committee.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so
then we did some
Jeff,
brain.
all those dates are in the Trails Committee's report, by the way. Just in case you need, if you need to mark your calendar, Stan, they're in the Trails Committee
Well, yeah,
report.
well, I have those dates, but it was a little bit unclear as to what, that one sounded like it was a special meeting specifically to deal with additional trails or additional miles being added to contracts or potentially new grooming contracts. Is that not being discussed at that meeting?
Yes.
It will be. There's a date every year that those requests have to be in by, and that's
right.
that.
Exactly. It seems
But
to
it's
me
not the
that
only
meeting
thing.
But there will be time for other stuff that night as well.
Okay, so then, like I say, I will plan on being there for that to discuss this idea with the Trails Committee. And then we just did some brainstorming for next year, trying to plan ahead for International Safety Week and that type of thing. There was a suggestion made by Julianne that there may be information available from the Snowmobile Manufacturers Association. Pat confirmed that. And I went on their website and tried to download or to get that package of material ordered, but apparently they've suspended the program or they're not accepting requests. So I'm going to have to try to find some other avenue for it, but that's about it.
Yeah, we may be able to get some more information on that in June when we're out at ISC as well, Stan.
All right. Maybe if you can make a note just to talk to people, you and I can talk about what we're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
Stan, you want to send an email to Matt and ask to be put on the agenda for the Trails Committee meeting,
Okay.
please? Thanks.
Julianne, you're on mute. I see your lips moving, but I'm not hearing anything.
I'm sorry. So another thing that we talked about at the safety committee was a question had come to us about having more instructors. But Trevor Carbo was like, yeah, no, we've already got a bunch of instructors, and they are going to do a vet again of who the instructors are, if they want to continue, if they've been active and that kind of thing. But after that is done, we were talking about maybe possibly having that either easy information on who to contact if you want to do an in-person class. I think there's been some misconceptions that each county should have their own instructor, and that's not necessarily the case. And if we could maybe put that in, like have a page before the club information in the VAS magazine about contact information to have a class, that would be helpful.
Or and get something up on the website as well.
Yeah, that too.
Yep.
Just because a lot of people assume that everybody knows, but that's not
Not
always.
everybody does.
You're right, right. All right, thank you.
Yep. Mark?
So I find that sort of disturbing that Trevor Carbo said that, because the safety course teachers are volunteers, some of whom have been doing it close to 20 years, and some of whom may not want to do it. So having new blood come in on a regular basis is nice. We've actually had a club here in our county say, hey, we're interested in getting one of our guys qualified to do the safety training. And Dave, my partner Dave, and I were like, yes.
I misspoke, Dave, Mark. I didn't speak clearly. I'm sorry. He wants to go through it and vet it and see if there's people that no longer want to be doing it anymore, see what the numbers are, and then take it from there. Because considering how many in-room classes we had versus the online, it takes a lot of capacity and finances to train the instructors. So Trevor's isn't that he doesn't want to do it. He just wants to make sure the list is up to date and make sure that it's we have people that are available, and make sure that the information is out there for who to reach out to.
And
Trevor said we're absolutely not going to train any new instructors. It might come to the point where we have to. But I think the first step is making sure that people know that, yes, we can do in-room trainings, and these are the people you need to reach out to.
And one other thing, he said there was only 71 people that took actual in-person classes this year. And the adding a new instructor isn't like it used to be. He says that it requires vetting. They have to do background checks on these people. It's not just a matter of saying, yeah, I want to be an instructor. You go to a half-day class with the state police where they take you through and kind of train you on it and then turn you loose. There's a lot more behind it, he said, than it used to be. So that was his challenge.
Yeah, I know you've got to be fingerprinted now too, anytime that you want to do anything with youth.
Yep.
I will say we did do 23 kids two Saturdays ago, and there's a hunger out there for in-person instruction. Like I said, I'm looking to retire, but from what I'm seeing, there is a hunger for in-person instruction. It's just not available.
Yeah. I mean, I've offered to do classes for a few different clubs, outside of what would be, say, my county. But I used to do regularly schedule 3 classes a year. This was down in in Connecticut, but I would have full classes. My wife's an instructor too, so we could have larger classes, and we would fill them, and we would fill 3. And of course, 2 years ago, we couldn't do anything because of COVID. And last year we had scheduled or put out the various dates, and we ended up with only, I think, 12 kids in one class, and that was it. So we're seeing on our end, the internet. Everybody wants to do everything online. There are people who definitely want to do it in person. I've had parents who have come to me and said that, my daughter or my son took it last year online because of convenience. But this year, they had a younger sibling come and take the class, and they felt that they got a lot more out of the in-person class. And I totally agree with that. The interactive nature of a in-person class, the ability to share real world scenarios with the kids. The idea of having such a mix of class too now with, when it used to be all kids, I thought it was more effective. Now that when you've got 35-year-olds in the class with 12-year-olds, makes it a little bit more difficult. And I think there might be some value into having two different curriculums and splitting the classes up. But there's certainly that there's a need for the in-person, but like Julianne said, if we can make it clear to the membership and to the clubs that here are 30 instructors that are active, and these 10 are willing to, travel to do a class if need be, that would be helpful.
Roger?
Just a little history for those that haven't really been involved in the administrative side for a little while. Back when J.R. Underhill was in charge of it, I'm sure a lot of you guys remember him. He had gotten some complaints about some instructors that they were just various complaints. It doesn't really matter what they were. So he attempted to dial in kind of the list and clean it up a little bit. And, we had instructors on there that had been on the list that hadn't instructed classes in years. And as you know, and Stan brings up a good point, there's a big difference between teaching children, juveniles, and teaching adults. There's different instructional tactics that you use. And so JR, when he when he was leaving and Marie Beeland took his spot, Marie tasked me for some reason with putting together a PowerPoint on what to teach or educate the instructors on, coming up on different tactics on how to teach adults versus how to teach children and juveniles and that kind of stuff. And the goal has been to just kind of clean up and refine the list, because we feel that the more instructors you have, the less chance that you can have for them to actually instruct, and the less proficient they're going to be on actually instructing, I guess, is kind of the goal. So, I was going to clarify what Julianne said, but she clarified herself, and it's exactly that. It's just kind of cleaning up the list. The folks in Washington County, if they're interested, they are certainly not off the table by any means. It's just they're trying to figure out how, or Trevor is trying to figure out how to do this efficiently, and he does have to do background checks, look people up in the state database system and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of discussions going on behind the scenes, and by no means is he saying that he doesn't want to have any new instructors.
Thank you, Roger. Carmen?
Thanks, Roger.
So I actually used to be an instructor a while back. I haven't done it in a really long time. But I also know that my son has had friends go on and take the online, and I hands down am so for in-person classes. I think they are so much more constructive. And I've also heard flat out from my son and friends of his that have taken the online, it is so easy to kind of cheat the system, so to speak, online. And you don't really have that option in an in-person class. And I thought that was very interesting to hear. So I'm not opposed to online, please let me put that out there. But perhaps that if you're going to do the online, maybe that needs to be revisited and kind of changed, tweaked, what, I don't know what the official comment would be. To, you know, maybe make that a little different, but, I'm just kind of like throwing that out there.
Well, the online program is not under our control. That's an independent company that runs that program. So that's not even part of the Vermont State Police or VAST. VAST has nothing really to do with it. That is an independent company that does it. And they do their boating one, they do their ATV one. And it's a program that's designed to qualify all states associations. So, you know, like the in-person class, which also is good for other states, but certainly when I do mine, I absolutely tailor it to Vermont riding. You know, I don't spend an hour talking about riding on ice like they would need to do out in Michigan or Minnesota or Wisconsin and those areas. So, or mountain riding techniques. As part of the course, there's questions about, you know, side hill or parts about side hill riding and that type of thing, which is mountain stuff. And I don't spend a lot of time on that. I talk about our trail system and what you're going to expect to see on our trail system. So that definitely is, I think, more beneficial to the kids, especially new adult riders as well. But, you know, we are limited to the system, and we can't just make changes on our own.
Okay, thank you, guys. Last but not least, Governor's Council. Pat.
Well, the only thing I really had from the Governor's Council was the number of safety classes taught. So here we go again. There were 71 in-person classes taught, or students taught, and there were 1,586 online courses.
Sounds
So
like
is it-
Mark added 23 to that 71, though, if it was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. But again, it's not even close to the 1,500.
No.
And with 71 students, I believe there were 50 some odd instructors. So I can understand why they're trying to pare back that list. But we can't really compare 71 students to any other year because of the COVID. I mean, here in Chittenden County, we could not find a facility to have a class in because all the facilities were closed to the public. And the other thing I had was DMV finally closed out well, not really. You could still register your snowmobile if you wanted to. But the registrations were 21,534 this year.
You have a breakdown of in-state, out-of-state?
I do. I'm not sure where it is.
Okay.
I have it if you want.
Yeah, you got it right in front of you?
I do. I was looking at the reports today and I have notes
Here it is. I got
5,823 for non-resident and 15,711 for resident, I believe.
Yep, exactly.
Repeat that?
15,711 residents.
We also get it by state, so we can tell which states, you know, how many people from each state in the United States and Canada are registering here.
There were 3,539 from Connecticut. There were 7
Pat,
from Georgia.
Pat, sorry, if you're done, I just have one more thing to add, Jeff. That's
done.
That's not Governor's Council.
Actually,
Okay.
Michael's got his hand up.
Okay.
Do we have the numbers of how many people took the online classes during the COVID years, the past 2 years? And then how many might have taken the online class previous to COVID, the 1 year previous to COVID?
I can tell you that the 1,586 that took it this past season is 800 down from last year.
So we had 2,300 take it last year. And do you have the numbers for the 2 previous years or no?
I could find them, but it would take me hours.
Okay, no big deal.
We get them. We just have to go through the minutes and all the governor's council, because it's reported out every month at governor's council and then every year. So we could
Michael, I
probably,
can send you that.
There was a spike. There was definitely a spike last year. And I think 2 previous years before that were kind of flat, and I think probably match up somewhere between this year and last year's number.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say they were in the 1,600 numbers.
Okay, Cindy.
I sent an email out a while back. The memorial for Tim Mills is May 21st in Bethel. It starts at 10 a.m. I sent you guys all out an email about that. Just wanted to remind you. I'll send you another reminder as well, but just to let you know, they're probably going to be doing some sort of food. I haven't talked to Angel for a little while, but they were talking about maybe a barbecue or something like that as well. And that is a Saturday.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Anything else from anybody before we close this out? Nobody? Nothing? I heard that gasp. Yes.
No, I was just going to make a joke and say, well, there was only one thing on the agenda tonight.
Yes, I know. I was figuring that at the rate we were going, we were going to be out of here at 6:30.
I stopped guessing years ago how long board meetings or annual meetings will go. Because when you think it's going to be short, it's longer. When you think it's going to be long, it's shorter. So anyway, but I really appreciate all that you guys do. Thank you so much.
I as well. And motion to adjourn.
Windsor County makes a motion to adjourn.
Okay, and I'll even take a second.
Chittenden County seconds.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you back
Thanks,
here in about
everybody.
a month.